You guys have so many questions for me. I'm super excited to answer them all. Welcome back to the channel. I'm FA. I live in New York with over 100 plants, and today I'm going to be answering all your questions. If you haven't already, subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos, and let's get started. Thank you for all the love on my plant tour. I really enjoyed making that video, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying it so much. Typically, I would take you outside as I have been doing all over New York, but I thought today we'd stay indoors. It's pretty freezing out there, first of all. I've been promising a Q&A for quite some time, so, why don't we just do it today? Get started. First question. I'm old school, by the way, so I have my trusty notepad. What's it like living in New York in your 40s? I like this question because New York is such on the surface of it, New York seems like such a Peter Pan city. And I feel like when people come here to visit, they just get the impression that everybody who lives here is in their 20s, they go out all the time, they party. Yes, there are loads of people like that, but honestly, life in New York can be so pretty mundane. I don't know that it's any different from living anywhere else. Now, I grew up in cities. I'm just a city person. So there's nothing strange to me about living in New York in your 40s. When I started living here, I didn't know that I was going to stay this long. I moved here 20 years ago, more than 20, like 22, 23 years ago. I moved here from London. I came, I just wanted to have a bit of adventure, to be honest. I had finished uni. I had started my first job out of uni. Didn't really care for it. And I thought, you know what? You're only young once. My best friend at the time, my best friend and I just came out here just to have some fun, a summer of fun, really. And I found a job that I enjoyed and they hired me. It wasn't easy to move to New York. Like immigration had just become more difficult. It was like after the World Trade Center. And so, immigration was tougher. And everyone thought I was absolutely mad for saying I was thinking about moving to New York. But I just went online. This was in the infancy, really, of the internet, wasn't it? But I went online back in 2003. Yeah, 2003. I went online and I just Googled jobs for British nationals in New York City. There's absolutely no way this would work today. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I Googled it. The first thing that came up was actually a vacancy. Clicked on it, went to the interview. They hired me. It was weird. They hired me and they said, we'll sort out your visa. So I went back home, packed up my suitcase, and moved to New York. And that was that. I didn't intend to stay. I moved here, thought, I'll just work here for a bit and figure life out. But, life happens. I was doing the typical New York in your 20s thing. I was a Brooklyn girl in those days. And, I had the most fantastic time. And I just fell in love with the city and ended up staying and have built a life here, which isn't strange. I mean, there are lots of people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, you name it in New York, it's actually a really, really great city because there's just so much to do. There's always something going on. And depending on your personality, I always say there's a neighborhood for everyone in New York. Anyway, I could go on forever on this is only question one. So let me yap less and move on to question two. Question two. What got you into the plant hobby? I feel like I've talked about this a little bit, but during the global shutdown in 2020, we were just in the house with not that much to do. And I looked around and thought the house it just looked bare, it looked empty. It's like a kind of like a box. It was just very dry. And I remember thinking, oh, this doesn't look very nice, but I didn't do anything about it. And then a few days later, I read a New York Times article about how people were growing spring onions, scallions, in their apartments. And they were growing them in water. And I thought that, I guess we were all doing different things, right, during lockdown. So some people were doing sourdough, some people were growing scallions. I thought, oh, I'll try that. And so I popped some ends of scallions in water and they grew. And I remember being so fascinated. I did some lettuce and some Napa cabbage, and I really actually loved it. I loved checking on it every day. The kids enjoyed checking on it. We made a few salads from our bounty, and I remember thinking, oh, this is cool. And then I thought, let's get a house plant to decorate because the apartment is bare. And I did a little bit of research and ordered a snake plant and a yucca. Got them from Home Depot. And I enjoyed having them. They were nice. I had also ordered a Monstera, and Monstera arrived a few days later. And it was love at first sight, honestly, because the thing about Monstera is it's just such a rewarding plant to grow. There's something about a new Monstera leaf unfurling that is so, so exciting, whether it's watching for the fenestrations or just, the way the leaves unfurl, and honestly, just how big and dramatic they are and how they change the instant look of the space. So I fell in love with the Monstera and went down the rabbit hole of plant care, looking at plants on Instagram, found Craig Miller Randall's plant page, and that was the end for me. I fell instantly in love with his style of plants and design and the whole thing. And I remember thinking, wow, there's so much more to houseplants than I thought. And I've never really looked back. That was it. That's how I got into the hobby. So, ooh, what's your favorite book? Hmm. I'm a huge book lover. I don't read as much as I used to. I identified as a true bookworm for years and years. I have so many books in my apartment, actually, because I love to read, love to read. I do think in recent years, stress from work, kids, life has gotten in the way. So I haven't been reading as much as I used to, but I used to be the kind of person who would devour a couple of books a week. And I would like to get back to that because I miss reading as much as I still read, but just not as much as I used to. What's my favorite book? Oof. I think that's really hard for me to say because I love so many. And honestly, it chops and changes quite a bit. The style of book I like. I like literary fiction the most, more than anything else. But I've read so many books that have left indelible marks on me. Like, I remember reading Jonathan Latham's Fortress of Solitude, and there was just something about the way gentrification is described in that book and the New York of that book that really stuck with me. I also love The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde. I just think that book really, really, I don't know, I loved that book so much. But I would say, above all, I do love anything really that was written by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Purple Hibiscus, Americana, Half of a Yellow Sun. Half of a Yellow Sun is probably my favorite. It's just such a wonderful read. I absolutely love that book. And I used to read it over and over again, I really enjoy it. And I'm really looking forward to her new book, Dream Count. It's coming out well, I think it's out in lots of places in the world, but in New York, I will have my copy tomorrow. No, on Thursday. I get my copy. We get our copies on Thursday, and I'm so excited. This is probably what will get me hooked again on reading. I don't know if that answers the question about my favorite book or not. Sorry. I just feel like it changes all the time. It's difficult to give one specific answer. Is it strange raising kids in the city? Why not move to the suburbs? It's actually never crossed my mind to move to the suburbs. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not a suburbs girl. I just like living in cities. I'm a city person. I like the fact that I can step out of my house straight into the chaos. And no, that's not it. It's not that. There's something about the accessibility that you get in New York, which is really the ultimate city, isn't it? The city of cities that I just love. And I think the suburbs are great, but I just don't really value those same things the same way. Maybe I would change my mind if I had moved to a suburb and tried it out, but I didn't. I like the city lifestyle, and even though I can be quite an introverted person, there's just something about the energy when you step onto the streets. You just feel like something, anything could happen. There's always stuff going on. I love having the ability to decide to be busy or not busy. I don't know. And I think cityscapes are actually really beautiful. The views, oh, I don't know, they speak to me. City living has my heart. If it wasn't New York, it would be London. I don't think it would be a suburb. That's just not me. What's your favorite plant genus? I wonder what it could be. Yeah, no, I'm an anthurium person through and through. I have other types of plants and I really enjoy them, but there's something about anthuriums. They're just going to do it for me every single time. I love every single one of them. I love your style. Do you have a huge wardrobe? Where do you shop for clothes? Thank you. Thank you. I shop for clothes all over the place, to be honest. Loads and loads of different shops. I obviously have my favorites. I do have a huge wardrobe. I'm trying to be better and not buy as many clothes. I'm trying to be a lot more intentional. I feel like we throw that word around all the time, but it's true. I'm trying to be better. A lot of the clothes I've had for a long time. So people often ask me, where did you get that? And I can tell you, but in many cases, they may or may not have item anymore. I'll leave some similar types of clothes from those places in the description. So if you want to check it out, you can. I wear a lot of things from Farmeria. It's one of my favorite. This is from Farmeria. I just like being a bird of paradise in a city of crows. There's just something about that really appeals to me. Like I'll go out in New York and everybody will be wearing black, and there I am, bam, orange, green, yellow, red. Yeah, that's me. I mean, sometimes I wear neutrals, right? I like neutral colors too, but there's something about the bright colors that I really, really love. I pop out and everyone's like, oh, you know? And for someone who is a bit quieter, it's actually a wonderful tactic to break the ice with people you don't know. So yeah, I don't know. They just make me happy. I love bright colors. I shop at Farm Rio. My cousin has a clothing line. It's UK based. It's called Kai Collective. I wear a lot of her items as well. They're beautiful. Like me, she really loves bright colors, so it's a natural fit. I love wearing lots and lots of Kai Collective clothes. I'll put a link below so you can check Kai Collective out as well. How long have you lived in New York City? I tell you, I love that there's so many New York City questions. It's fantastic. I feel like I've addressed this a little bit already in one of the other questions, but I moved to New York in 2003. So we're now in 2025. So I guess I'm coming up on my 22-year anniversary. It's still 21 and change. It will be 22 years in the summer, late summer of 2025. So yeah, it's been quite a while. I've been having this love affair with New York for quite a while. What's your job? You travel a lot. So I work in international relations. I can't really say where, you know, there's doesn't I shouldn't do that. But yeah, I work in international relations. I do a lot of business development. So there is a good amount of travel involved in that. I'm actually between jobs at the moment, so I'm not working at the moment, so you probably see me around New York City a lot more. Maybe I'll put out more videos on the channel while I have some extra time. But yeah, I do international relations. That's what brought me out here to New York, and New York's a really good place for that. Maybe I can go into more detail on that type of work in another video if you're interested. I don't know. Let me know. If you were starting your plant collection over from scratch, what 5 plants would you have? Oof, that is a wonderful question. It's a really good question. And I think that's really hard for me to answer because I feel like I just have so many bangers and it would be hard. Like my natural inclination is to choose 5 anthuriums, but I know that I probably wouldn't do that if I was starting from scratch because you want to have some kind of balance. I would want things to be kind of visually impactful. So I think I would hmm, I want to say I would probably still have a Monstera, but honestly, I don't know because they just take up so much space. And I'm leaning towards getting rid of one of my Monstera, so I don't know if I would get a Monstera. But then again, if I only had 5, I would probably have plenty of space. So maybe I would have a Monstera. I would have the Thai constellation Monstera because I feel like you have to have one variegated plant. And then I would add Anthurium luxurians because I'm sorry, the texture on her is unreal. And I just think she adds wonderful dimension to a space. And then I would have the donkey tail succulent because I just think it's truly spectacular and I love how it changes as it grows over time. How many is that? That's 3, right? Monstera Thai constellation, donkey tail succulent. Anthurium luxurians. I would add the oxalis for a little pop of color, and then I would get one more anthurium because I love them. Maybe I would get an Anthurium forgetii, although I seem to struggle so much with growing those, so I don't know why I would do that. But we're talking about what you love, right? Not necessarily what you're good at growing. So yeah, I'll get an Anthurium forgetii. You notice there's no philodendrons on that list. It's not like I don't like philodendrons, but I'm a little over them at the moment. What's your favorite song and artist? Ooh. I don't know. That is impossible for me to say, honestly. My love of music is vast. I'm a real 90s, aughts, 80s, 90s, aughts R&B kind of girl. And I think if you asked me when I was growing up, I would have said without a doubt Whitney Houston, because I've loved her for a long time. But I don't know. I think I'm gonna say that I love Lauryn Hill and I love her album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I think that is probably my favorite album. Maybe this is hard. Or maybe it's Boys to Men. Maybe it's Babyface. I don't know. I don't know. Make of that what you will. I don't think I can choose one song. Do you know what? If I had to choose just one song overall at the moment, it would be an Afrobeat song, to be honest. It would be Ashake, Lonely at the Top. But I wonder if that's recency bias, if I'm just choosing that because in the last few years, that's the song I love. But if you go back 3, 4 years, if you go back, that's the most played. Every year it comes at the top of my Spotify rap. So maybe, yeah, Ashake, Lonely at the Top. That's my favorite song. What is/are the most underrated plants in your opinion? Hmm. Ooh, I don't know. Is anything underrated anymore? I feel like everything's kind of rated. I feel like they just go through phases, don't they? And they get huge and then they die back down. You know what? I think anthuriums are underrated by the general public. People who are deep into the plant hobby are obviously obsessed with anthuriums, but I think the general public is sleeping on them. And I think it's because of this perception that they're somehow extremely difficult or they need crazy amounts of humidity. And it's just not the case. Yes, some do, but some of them do fine. It's all about where you buy them. And I don't know. I think more people should keep anthuriums as houseplants. They're just so striking. What's not to love? Any fun brand collaborations in the future? I hope so. Brands, if you're listening, what are you waiting for? Sponsor me. Sponsor me now. If you had more space, would you have more plants? Or are you happy with your collection as is? This is a difficult question for a multitude of reasons, really. I think it's hard to say. I'm not sure is the answer. I have reduced my collection a little bit from what it used to be, but I still have quite a hefty whack, a big chunk, quite a few plants. Closer to the 100 mark than anything else. There's a lot of them. Would I have more than that if I had the space? I don't know. I think it depends on the type of space. The biggest challenge with having a massive number of plants is figuring out how to water them without destroying the furniture. If this the space was such that I could set up and I could water the plants and not worry about the water spraying all over the furniture and destroying the apartment, then yeah, I probably would have more, to be honest. Because there every day I see plants I want, mainly a million different types of anthuriums, and I don't get them because I just think where I'm not going to be able to manage them to my standard. Like I want my plants to look a certain way, and anthuriums in growing in open air and not in self-watering pots really do best when you can foliar feed and spray them. So that's the challenge. It's like, where would I put them that I would be able to spray them and display them nicely and really enjoy them? Obviously, I don't want to have plants and not be able to see them and enjoy them. So yeah, I actually don't know. I think it would depend on the design and the makeup of the space. Like if it was some multi-story lofted space with a million different rooms and I could style the plants differently all over the space, then yeah, I probably would have more plants. But then I'd need more help caring for them. So it's hard to say. Maybe if it was my full-time job, then, maybe. I love this question. How does your partner feel about all the plants? My husband moans constantly about plants covering the TV. That's just like the way I have them styled. So he moans a lot about, things blocking his view of the TV. But then, when I move something, or, like now that I've downsized a little bit and gotten rid of a plant here or there, he's always the first one to say, "Oh my gosh, what happened to such and such a plant?" Or, "Oh no, don't get rid of this, that, and the other." So I think that he loves to complain about the plants because it's just part of his personality at this point. But inside, deep down inside, he loves them just as much as I do, if not more, honestly. And the kids love the plants. Like I think, possibly don't remember what it was like without them. Yeah, they love all the plants. So we're all on the same page. One big planty family. What are your favorite plant shops? Oof. I have so many. New York is actually really good for pawn shops, and I like to go, across all the boroughs to find them. There's a ton. There's My Bonita Gardens, which I've shown in a video already. There's Natty Garden in Brooklyn. Lovely, lovely plant shop. Beautiful. There's Brooklyn Horticulture. Fantastic plant shop owned by, a planty guy. I like to go to the farmers market sometimes to buy plants. There are two different outposts that sell plants there, Petal, and I can't remember what the other one is, but the farmers market is a really good choice as well. There are really nice plant shops in Greenpoint and Williamsburg if you're looking for an aesthetic shopping experience. There's the whole flower district in Chelsea. Lots of those places sell plants. I don't have a particular recommendation there because honestly, I don't buy plants there, so I don't want to say, but some of the best bargains you'll find are at the farmers market. It's just that one, that's seasonal, and two, you know, I can't vouch for their pest control situation. Natty Garden, My Bonita Gardens, Brooklyn Horticulture, love buying plants from those places. Do you miss London? Honestly, every day. I talk a lot, I wax poetic about how much I love New York, but I miss London like I'm missing a limb. I miss London all the time. First of all, my entire extended family is in London. Well, I have a few cousins. I have a couple of cousins here in the US, but by and large, everybody is either in London or in Nigeria, with the bulk of them being in London. And so for me, I think it's just really hard on holidays or whenever they get together and I just see pictures and just big groups of them and I'm here without them. That's hard. But beyond the people, I just really miss the city. And what makes it difficult is every time I go back, it's a little bit different. And I think the knowledge that even if I move back to London tomorrow, it will never be the same as when I lived there. So you end up in a scenario where you don't quite belong anywhere. That sounds sad. It's not sad. You end up living with a little piece of all these places in your heart. And I love living in New York, but I really do miss living in London. At the same time, I know if I move home to London, I will really miss living in New York. So you sort of ponder what's the right thing to do. I don't know. I've decided to just go with the flow. But yes, I really miss living in London. I do visit every year. I go see my family and take the kids so they get to see their cousins and know their cousins. And that's really nice. It helps. Usually by the end of that trip, I feel like a Londoner again. And then I have to leave and come back. So I miss London. There are lots of things I don't miss about London, let's be clear. Lots of things. But overall, by and large, I miss London. This is a technical question about roots. Do you trim the roots of your plants, both regular and the ones that are in self-watering pots? Do you trim the reservoir? So I can't really answer the self-watering pot question. I think I have about two self-watering pots in total. I don't really feel qualified to answer that question. I feel like any answer I give would be kind of misleading because I don't really have self-watering pots like that. Don't trim the roots of the two that I have in reservoir. And honestly, I don't know what I'll do when they grow that much. So watch this space, I guess. What does everybody else, what do you guys do? Do you trim the roots of your plants that have reservoirs? I don't know. The rest of my plants, I haven't trimmed any roots yet. I just keep uppotting them like crazy, but the time is coming, I'm sure, I mean, everything is getting so out of control, especially like these ficuses and. So yeah, I probably will. I do probably have some root trimming in my future. I'm always wary of shocking some of the plants, I guess because I have so many anthuriums, but at some point, like there's only so big you can let these things grow. And so I probably have to make a decision one of these days about that. But for the moment, I haven't really trimmed roots. I like. What type of camera do you use? Your videos are always so clear. First of all, let me say I love this question because it's a compliment. And thank you because I work really hard on these videos and I'm really glad that you appreciate it and that you're enjoying them. So I actually use my iPhone for everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. I film on my iPhone. I edit the videos from beginning to end on my iPhone and I upload them from my iPhone. I do not use a laptop or anything or a camera. It all happens from the iPhone. And I edit the videos in CapCut and that's what I do. It's easier than you think. It's not probably the most convenient. It's difficult to edit longer videos on the iPhone, so I probably should look into a different production setup now that I'm making more and more of these videos. But honestly, iPhone's been a great all-in-one solution for me and just a really great place to start. So that's what I use. Last question. We've come to the end. What is the best thing about living with and raising a family in an apartment in New York City? Hmm. Apartment, I can't really comment too much on that because I've only ever had a family in an apartment. I've never had a family in a house, so I'm not sure if I would like that better, but I will say that I absolutely love the close quarters that the apartment brings. Even though on paper it would seem annoying that we live on top of each other, but the truth is that we're forced to be in each other's space. And that's kind of nice, especially as my kids grow older. Like my daughter is entering her teenage years soon. And it's just really nice to have her still, even though she gets her privacy, it's nice that we're still in each other's space, that we don't have these massive corners of the house to retreat to. So I do like that. I also love the whole floor to ceiling sunlight flooded thing that you get from living in, several stories up in the sky. So yeah, apartment living for me has been nice in that regard, just these massive windows. There's nothing like walking in the morning to a city view, sunlight drenched living room. It's gorgeous. All the things that I love about New York make it for me a really, really great place to have a family. First of all, there's always something going on. When I say always, I mean it's like, oh, what should we do today? There's a million things going on. There are so many parks. When it's not cold, we live in the parks. There are a million parks all over New York, and so that's really nice. The waterfronts all over the city are jam-packed with action. There are so many festivals, museums. There are a million and one museums here. So many of them have free days, botanical gardens. I think every borough has its own botanical garden, so that's really cool. What else? Restaurants, obviously. Broadway, plays, restaurants, fashion week. My God, I could go on forever. New York has so much going on. And what I like about that is that the kids, my children, get to just be who they want to be. There is literally something for everyone. The nice thing about New York is you will always find your people. Like you will never be the odd man out here. If you think you're odd, there's always someone odder than you. If you think you're rich, there's always someone richer than you. If you think you're poor, there's always someone doing less than you. Yeah, if you're quirky, there are quirkier people. So New York, it's kind of cool like that, You're never ever gonna be looked at twice on the street for whatever it is you're doing. And for children, there's an innate freedom in that, you can just be connected to who you're supposed to be. And I think that's such a wonderful thing. But then also, my children are multiracial, multicultural, and so having access to all these different cultural foods, activities, parade, you name it, having so many cultures, so many races from all over the world here in New York, I think it really helps them feel at home. And I love that for me. I love that for them. Yeah, it's a great place to live. The other thing that I think is fantastic about it is, and people don't realize this, there's a neighborhood for everybody in New York. If you like busy, hustle bustle stuff, there's a neighborhood for you. If you want a more quiet, relaxed suburban feel, there's a neighborhood that will afford you that as well. So I really like the fact that this is a city where you can say to yourself, "Oh, I want to live this type of lifestyle." Obviously, that's a privileged thing for me to say because finances do come into play. Everybody can't live everywhere. However, by and large, you can choose your neighborhood according to your desires and, get to live the life that you want in the city. And I think that's a really, really lovely thing. And I hope that I'm able to continue to give my children that experience because I think we all very much enjoy living here. New York or nowhere, I say.